everyone. Welcome to the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast, where we explore our shared love for watching and discussing movies recorded in the late after-work hours, often in lieu of a good night's rest. I'm Madeline.
I'm Julian.
And I'm Emilio. The three of us are colleagues at a Midtown Manhattan music school. Yes, music is what brings us together, but movies are what keep us together, talking at the end of the night. So we've created some order to this ongoing trend by recording these conversations, considering an overarching theme while we cycle through 5 unique guidelines for engagement.
You can email us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com. Seriously, we'd love to hear from you. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok for updates, highlights, clips, and other visual supplements to the audio we record at Sleepless Cinematic Pod.
In addition to these main episodes, we record and release bonus one-off episodes as we see fit. While we do this, you, the listener, can count on the three of us doing what we've grown to love, foregoing sleep for a discussion about movies every other week.
And this week, we start our new cycle of movies related to politics with a category we call Viewunanimous, where we visit a movie the three of us have all seen before and see if our initial opinions still stand, if they've changed, or if discussing the movie will make us see things we didn't see before. And that movie may only be loosely related to politics and elections, but we are very excited to discuss Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Yep, the 2004 film directed by Jared Hess, starring John Heder. He's kind of the big name that came out of this.
He has the most fruitful career post-Napoleon Dynamite.
Definitely.
Yeah.
An iconic film, I would say, for our generation in particular.
Yeah, and it should be noted that, Napoleon Dynamite, this is a well-known film, but it is not to be confused with films such as Napoleon.
Yes.
The film from just last year, directed by Ridley Scott, starring Joaquin Phoenix as the titular tyrant. Mm-hmm. I don't think Napoleon Dynamite would have that name without some consciousness of the historical figure. Mm-hmm. But yeah, not to be confused with that film.
Yeah.
That is true.
I would say it's also not to be confused with other versions of Napoleon. There was a movie back in 1927, a French film that was also made about this famed French general. And there was a television series that came out about 22 years ago that also had it. So none of these Napoleon-related films or television series called Napoleon are the film we're talking about today.
And Napoleon Dynamite, the film, also has a spin-off cartoon. And I guess we should clarify, we're not talking the Napoleon Dynamite cartoon. Apologies if that's what you were tuning in for. We are talking about the original film.
Yes. What are your guys' first impressions of this movie?
So I saw this movie for the first time on a church retreat, probably a year or two after it came out. And any memory I have of watching this film itself is overshadowed by the fact that I got terrible food poisoning that very day.
No. Oh, no.
I was the only person on this retreat to get sick, and it was gone literally within 12 hours. So I have no idea. Very few times in my life have I felt that ill for such a short amount of time.
Wow. Yeah.
So I've pretty much blocked out most of this movie.
Oh my.
Because I was so sick for like the 12 hours after.
Okay.
But I believe I've seen it maybe one other time since then because my dad really loves this movie. And he was very disappointed that we didn't include this in our high school movie cycle.
I was going to say, that I do remember you saying. Do you know what your dad's relationship to this movie is?
I do not.
Okay. He just happens to like it a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. How about you?
For me, well, this actually, to recall something that came up with a bunch of the high school movies we discussed before, this was a movie that throughout a certain bracket of years in my childhood, I saw quite a lot on television.
Got it.
I believe the first time I saw it was when I was about 10, which would be 2007. And this, it was nice to really get access to this movie at that time in my life because, as a young cinephile, I was very curious about a lot of movies, but I was too young to watch a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But this was something that was still like relatively fresh, pretty popular, and well regarded that I did get to see in its full detail without any of it being like censored from me or hidden from me. And, it was satisfying to get that kind of access to a movie that was current and appreciated, but also just because it's a really enjoyable movie.
Yeah, I think we'll get into this more later, but this movie is surprisingly family friendly.
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely a comfort as a young viewer to watch that. And yeah, it was over the years. I mean, first time I saw it was when I was around 10. And then I received, for a birthday one year, this DVD copy that I'm holding right now in front of me. And throughout late elementary, middle, and early high school, I saw that movie on TV a lot. But I don't think ahead of this conversation that I had seen it at any point in the last 10 years. So watching it again for this, it was very nostalgic.
Cool.
For me.
Emilio, how about you?
Yeah.
This is a movie that I saw before it came to home video, but not when it came to home video. And that's because the video store that I worked at received a screener copy of this movie about 3 months before it was released. And it was a huge hit amongst all of us video store clerks.
I believe it.
Yeah. I don't think I loved it right away, to be brutally honest with you. Something about it didn't quite hit me on the first watch, but it's such an easy movie to watch. And there's something so oddly compelling about Napoleon and how he looks and how he talks and how he moves. It's really hard to not get sucked into the charm and the humor that runs throughout the performances. And I also think just the modest ambitions in this movie, I think, are very, very charming and do work well on repeat viewings. One thing I'll say is that my girlfriend in high school thought this was the funniest movie she'd ever seen. And I watched this movie innumerable amounts of times with her. And so I found myself pulled into this movie more and more. And I don't think it was a favorite movie of mine at the time, because this was a very formative time for me with movies. And so I think I would not have called a movie like this a favorite movie. I think I was more interested in calling movies with, like I said, more lofty ambitions my favorite movie. But I did have a lot of fun with this movie in high school. Did like it a lot.
One of the things that I like about this movie as I've rewatched it is kind of how low the stakes are.
Big time.
I mean, it's questions like, will Napoleon find a date to the dance? Will Pedro win the election for class president? Is Kip being catfished? What's Uncle Rico's deal? The biggest stakes are kind of whether or not grandma's okay after her sand dune accident.
Right. Yes. I always love that moment. It's just all of a sudden she's living her best life.
Yeah. And then another thing that I really came to love about this movie, even watching it as a much younger viewer, was, just the very distinct personality that it has too.
Yeah,
that
totally.
Even, in the points that feel they don't need to be there for plot, they're just kind of there aesthetically. It's still, there's so many memorable quotes. The looks of the characters are iconic.
Oh, totally.
So you could as a younger viewer too, I was not as good at following plot, but when you just kind of are that age and following just the most salient details, it makes a very memorable impression. And so the first signifier of it that I really noticed, and, apropos of this political theme, was the shirt that became a fad after this movie. Vote for Pedro.
I know. I really want to get into what that really means. What a vote for Pedro.
Yeah. What are you voting for?
Yeah. What are you voting for when you do that?
Yeah. I actually had one of those shirts when I was...
You strike me as somebody who would have one. Yes.
Yeah. I'm not sure. It's probably buried in a closet somewhere in my childhood home.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing it for this discussion, suffice to say.
Cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about what Napoleon Dynamite is about.
Good luck.
Yeah, I know, right? I'll do my best. Napoleon Dynamite follows the lives of a slew of eccentric characters in Preston, Idaho. The year appears to be 2004 based on a school ID, though there are many details to suggest that this movie might actually take place about 4 or 5 years earlier, and then other details that suggest it might be about 15 years earlier. We've got Napoleon, obviously the mouth-breathing loner, who will speak when spoken to, but mostly retreats to his drawings. He lives with his older brother Kip, another loner, who says he's training to be a cage fighter, but mostly chats online with who he believes are hot babes for several hours, tying up the phone lines with that dial-up connection and racking up expensive bills for his grandmother. When this grandmother suffers an accident motorbiking, Uncle Rico, a steak-eating former high school athlete, unhealthily obsessed with his glory days, enters the picture. There's also Deb, who is a shy student at Napoleon's school who supplements her income at a photo studio by selling homemade bracelets. And the movie really takes shape around 2 school-sanctioned events. There's a dance, and eventually, for our conversation more saliently, a student body government election where Napoleon's new friend Pedro, a quiet but plucky recent arrival from Mexico, decides to throw his hat in the ring to run for president. Napoleon and Deb lend their skills to his campaign, and a journey towards election day and greater self-discovery truly takes off.
Love it.
Sums it up very well.
There is something about the feel and the characters of this movie that are so inimitable. Like I know that when I saw it, I really hadn't felt like I'd seen anything like it. Like,
Totally.
I think I eventually saw like Ghost World, and there are elements of like the characters in Ghost World that feel a little bit like Napoleon Dynamite, but at that time, this was like a wholly original world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just in terms of how it holds up, I mean, I liked it a lot as a kid and a preteen. I think I like it even better now, just that my critical skills with film are more refined, and, I can appreciate the low budget aspect of it, like the scrappiness, the success in spite of that, of the lack of resources of the movie, and just its commitment to its style, the depth of character too. In a lot of ways, I think it is a really cleverly written movie. Like, it's not just to be funny. Like, there is some very real things that come across in these characters.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love the kind of choice of who to focus on in this world, because these are people who are towards the bottom, I think, of the social ladder, particularly Napoleon. And then Pedro is new to the school. Deb doesn't really seem to have any friends outside of the two of them, but they find each other, and that's very wholesome and sweet. And I think can inspire like some amount of confidence for a young person that like they can kind of find their fellow weirdos.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
I do feel like this movie was like a big warm hug for me watching again. Honestly, I had some new appreciation for how simply and subtly it sets up each subsequent scene. Like, that was something I don't remember really catching when I was a little younger, was just how neatly this movie actually is.
This movie really, just is constantly moving right along from like point A to point Z, like hitting every letter in between, and in a very organized, like tight way. It's like a 90-minute runtime.
Totally.
Right? Yeah.
For a movie that does feel like full of non sequiturs, actually does have this very like breadcrumb trail type of energy to it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And all these callbacks to earlier things too.
Right.
It's like Uncle Rico throws a steak at Napoleon earlier in the movie, and then he throws an orange at his truck.
I love that. I love that.
It's a grapefruit, actually.
Well, I mean, it should be noted that I am allergic to citrus fruits. So on some level, they are all the same to me. Yeah. I mean,
That's fair.
I know a bunch of them.
Very fair.
Yeah, a bunch of them look quite noticeably different, but they're all things I can't eat. So.
That's fair enough. I also, when you were talking about the steak, one thing I learned from the commentary is that John Grease does not eat red meat. So he plays Uncle Rico, and apparently is like in between takes spitting out the steak every single time. And you actually can catch it. If you really look, you can see him like spitting a piece of steak into his hand.
Yeah. I read as well that they were trying to get that steak throwing scene to really land, so to speak. And John Grice apparently played a lot of baseball when he was younger and convinced the crew to let him, take a swing at that, and nailed it first take.
Speaking of his physical ability, also apparently in one of the scenes where he's throwing a football towards a camera, the one where he hits the camera, that was not intentional. But he really nails that thing.
He really does. He does. And he does sound authentically upset.
Yeah.
It's like, that was 6% of the budget right there. I mean, on the subject of the budget and everything.
Yeah, $400,000. And I mean, the fact that this comes from a short film that Jared Hess directed in college, which we all three watched
we did.
prior to this conversation.
Palooka.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about Palooka?
Palooka, I mean, it's funny. Like, it really is just kind of the test run of that movie.
Yeah. Big time.
There's, I think it's entertaining to watch, but it just feels like Napoleon Dynamite light.
Yeah, and he's not Napoleon in that. His name is Seth.
Yeah.
The Latin presence in the film, there's two guys.
Two of them.
Right? There's Pedro and I think Gil. They call him Gil.
Yeah, or like Gael.
Yeah,
maybe.
Gael. Yeah, it was hard to tell.
Yeah, and then Seth has like a bit of a problem with buying lottery tickets.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, and seems to be one of the big thrusts of it.
But yeah, there's some things that they flesh out further, like they go into the thrift store and obviously the shaving of the head and the buying of the wig, the action figure out the bus window.
Yep.
Like there are things like this that do make their way into Napoleon Dynamite as a feature-length film.
Yeah.
But I think it's incredible to watch Palooka at just the bare bones that it is, like a 9-minute student film.
Yeah.
And see what can happen just in a matter of a couple of years with the same director. He writes Palooka, but then his wife joins him to co-write Napoleon Dynamite.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he establishes this whole world in Napoleon Dynamite that you see, I think, traces of in Palooka.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also feel like you can see a lot of the visual storytelling style that is very present in Napoleon Dynamite in Palooka. Like you can see a lot of stationary cameras, very still actors at the center of the frame.
Yeah.
It does lay the groundwork.
But then also, like, as much as Napoleon Dynamite on its own really is this kind of standalone, that, I mean, it had influence too. It's like I'm just looking at the bottom of the Wikipedia page about it. You know, it points out that this movie paved the way. It helped greenlight movies like Little Miss Sunshine and Juno.
Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
With their
I could
small
definitely
town
see that.
settings.
Yeah.
It's also, and like, you know, the people in it too. I mean, you know, most notably Jared Hess, the director, and John Heder, the star. I mean, they had careers that built from this movie too.
Oh,
Have
for
you guys
sure.
seen any of their other films?
Yes.
I gave Nacho Libre a try when I was 15. I did not care for it. I have not attempted it since then.
Yeah. So I saw Nacho Libre as well as Gentlemen Broncos, which was the Jared Hess film that followed. Nacho Libre, I remember like as a 9-year-old kid enjoying it, but I imagine, I haven't revisited it. I imagine it probably hasn't aged very well, you know, mostly due to like the way that Jack Black is presented in that movie. But then Gentlemen Broncos, I just remember that is a weird movie.
Yeah.
That is like a very strange thing. Well, what about you? Have you
I
seen?
haven't seen either one of those other films, partially because I actually was a little bit nervous about seeing anything but this movie.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, just because it's so particular. I can't imagine someone trying to go back to the well.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
not to say that these other two films do that. I just, in my mind, I'm like, this is a standalone thing.
It's a very tall order, I think, to try to follow up this film. And that's got to be tough for a director whose
Absolutely.
debut takes off in a way that I imagine he could never anticipate.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But yeah, I ultimately find the success of this film really interesting. We talked a little bit about Palooka, which stars John Heder. Jared Hess directs it while at Brigham Young. And the film is well received at festivals. And then Hess drops out of college to adapt it into a feature film that becomes Napoleon Dynamite. And the budget is only $400,000. Hess had to DIY a lot of the film. He keeps Hader, even though one casting director suggests Jake Gyllenhaal. Which,
That's so crazy.
I mean, just try to picture that.
He was in a movie called Bubble Boy.
Oh, yeah.
You guys know about Bubble Boy?
I haven't
I know
seen it,
of
but
it.
I know
Okay.
of
Haven't
Bubble
seen
Boy.
it.
Okay, I feel like that would be the studio executives.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he did this. He was kind of weird.
Yeah,
A weird kid.
I mean, even Donnie Darko, I
Yeah,
feel like is
yeah.
like kind of not so far away.
It's like Donnie Darko meets Bubble Boy. that's where we get.
That's how you're gonna
Yeah,
Napoleon
now I'm
Dynamite.
just picturing Jake Gyllenhaal with his wide eyes staring down. Deb going, "You gonna finish your tots?"
Yeah, that's true. Yes, very like Nightcrawler.
Yeah, exactly. So ultimately, Jake Gyllenhaal does not get cast in this film. I imagine budget's probably a constraint, and I imagine that Jared Hess has a certain amount of loyalty to Hader as a friend and as the person who brought Seth to life in
Yeah.
Palooka,
Yeah.
who's the prototype for Napoleon. But he also casts a lot of his other friends. The actor that plays Kip, Aaron Huell, also like a childhood friend of Hess's. So my question for you guys is, do we think they had any idea that they had such a hit on their hands and that it would blow up to the extent that it did?
So in preparation, I was listening to a relatively recent interview with John Heder. It took place about 2 years ago on a podcast hosted by the actor Michael Rosenbaum. And what John Heder was saying, he made it sound as though I don't know if Jared Hess could tell if he had a hit on his hands, but John Heder seemed pretty confident about it at the time. Like he could see a lot of the movie's potential in terms of, maybe not in terms of, the story going so far, but in terms of like marketing, merchandise, that having like action figures for the characters and catchphrases that they say. I think he was confident in that sense that the movie would be memorable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that it could be marketed. Wow,
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And that like Jared Hess, he was describing Jared Hess at the premiere as he was the nervous one there. Because he was like, this project is my baby. What if they don't like it?
Right, of course.
Thankfully it was very successful at Sundance and then in theaters afterward. But ultimately, I think given the general down-to-earthness of the project, I feel like it probably was on some level a surprise to everyone.
Yeah, John Grease and Tina Majorino, who plays Deb, they also speak on the actor's commentary about, it's kind of the Heather story where their agents are like, don't do this film. You're not going to make any money from this film. It's a waste of your time. And they just both like really believe in the project and like, drive out to Idaho, middle of nowhere, to make this movie. And so I think that passion really comes through for everybody. People who were there from the beginning, from Palooka, like Hess and Hader, but then people who join for Napoleon Dynamite specifically, who just, I think, know that they have some lightning in a bottle.
Yeah. What I kind of like about this movie is I don't think that they had any idea. And in many ways, I don't think they were trying to make a movie that was meant to appeal to people.
I think it's just like a hopefulness of we're going to make something that we think is going to be good.
Yeah, right. And something that speaks to us. Like I know that the movie, it was very autobiographical. Jerusha Hess is Jared Hess's wife, co-writer of the film. They talk a lot about how she basically was Deb.
Yeah.
And that a lot of Deb's character comes straight from her own life. And that a lot of the like weird details, all the stuff about living in such close proximity to farmers. Yeah. That story about Lyle like shooting the cow.
Yeah, like that actually happened.
Right in front of the school bus. And that there's something about making a film, putting your best foot forward and being like, we're hoping that there's something in here that is just going to resonate with the right amount of people.
So then with that in mind, like what do we think it is about this film that ultimately resonates with people? This film does very well at the box office, particularly in comparison with its shoestring budget. What is it about this movie that connects with people?
I think that somewhat simplistically, people just like to watch something that feels lived in. Yeah. That has these stories that you feel like you can only portray this if you've seen it. Like with, that scene of the cow slaughter. But something else that struck me this time that maybe, I don't know if anyone articulated this at the time that Napoleon Dynamite was in theaters, but certainly something I could see as a more mature viewer now is that Napoleon himself and several other characters in this movie struck me as being coded as autistic. That there was like sort of a lack of conventional social skills that a lot of them have, but they're portrayed sympathetically. Right. I'll see Napoleon try something, some kind of social effort that doesn't land, but it's not. My reaction is not to judge him for that. It's like a feeling of I've been there. It sucks. Like I was thinking of the scene where he makes the drawing for Trisha to ask her out. And it's a funny thing to watch, but
that's probably I think the toughest one to see because you see all the angles of it. You see the mom pressuring Trisha into being like, accept this invitation, be nice. And
also that Uncle Rico has, badmouthed Napoleon to Trisha's mom in order to get her to say that. Right. Speaking of which, too, it's just a side point, but it's obvious in the movie, but it hit me a lot more now watching it as an adult that Uncle Rico is a jerk. He is
I want to come back to that.
He's also going through a lot of his own mess in life.
He definitely is.
It was funny. He was the character that resonated the most with me this time. I'll get into that later, I think. He's not a nice guy on a number of fronts, but
throwing that steak in particular. But it's like what Napoleon is doing by making that drawing of Trisha. It's misguided and it doesn't land, but he's doing it sincerely.
And it wasn't even his idea. It was Pedro's idea.
That's right.
Yeah, and I got some of the same vibes from Pedro too.
Yeah,
like in his case with building, as he puts it,
he
the
built
cake
her a cake.
Yeah, built her a cake.
for Summer.
Do we think he built Deb a cake?
Good question.
Yeah,
Probably not. Yeah,
It's a shame.
yeah,
She deserves a cake.
yeah,
she
does.
definitely does.
But yeah, so in many ways, I felt like the friendship that you see emerge between Napoleon and Pedro and Deb really is just this kind of sense of like, we all feel like misfits, but that's why we like each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
this movie is ultimately about underdogs
Yeah.
and weird people finding other weird people. And I think that is a very relatable thing. I think it's relatable to people who don't even consider themselves that weird.
Yeah.
I just think, like you said, seeing that portrayed is a hard thing to hate.
Yeah.
Even I think about Trisha. We go on kind of a journey with Trisha because we do ultimately see her like agree begrudgingly to go to the dance with Napoleon and then bail on him almost immediately. And that is not kind. But the first we see of her is like her in the Happy Hands sign language club. So it's like, I mean, what exactly is Trisha's social status? She seems to be good friends with Summer, who seems to be kind of a queen bee type, but I don't know. Trisha's kind of like a hanger-on in this sense. So I don't know that she's like has a whole lot of social capital either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get to this later, but I found the general vibe of Preston High School
Interesting.
to be kind of weird.
Yeah, totally.
Because the popular kids don't exhibit a lot of behavior that you would usually ascribe to popular kids.
Yeah, there is that like one bully who's also in Palooka.
Randy. Yes, he is in Randy's. Yep.
Randy,
Yes.
who he doesn't seem like cool either, but he is
No.
definitely the most violent of the
Right.
bullies, which is I think the most stereotypical like
Right.
bully thing.
And Summer's boyfriend, Don, who
Yeah.
I had to look this up. I was like, homie could be like 53
Yeah.
and in great shape. I think he's in his 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my God, he's
He looks
giving
a-
off like Crater Face vibes
Yeah,
a little
totally.
bit.
He looks a
kept-
lot older
I
than the
kept
rest
wanting
of
to
them.
call him Tab Hunter.
Yes,
Yeah.
got a little bit of that.
Totally.
Yeah. He kind of dresses like the guy at the law firm who like runs marathons.
Yeah.
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 A
But
little
he
bit, yeah.
has his hairstyle is so of that time, or like you were saying before, there are certain style choices in this movie that almost place it like 90s or even like 80s.
Yeah, right.
I
The
think.
bleach.
His bleach and like the gelled up tips.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
feels very like late 90s to me.
I wonder if it being set in such a rural place, if like trends are a bit behind in a
Yeah.
town like that.
That is a good read.
They
Yeah.
most definitely are. When I taught middle school in the middle of nowhere, we always joke that they would get memes like months after they were popular. Like the back at 'em with the white vans. Kids were quoting that like 6 months after the internet originally got a hold of it.
Gotcha. So if there was like a 6-month lag on the internet,
Exactly.
you imagine what,
Yeah, 2004.
physical products, what kind of a lag there would be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also, Dougie reminded me, or possibly found out, that Haley Duff, who plays Summer, dated Nick Carter briefly. And I feel like this guy has like kind of a like wannabe Backstreet Boys kind of vibe.
And it does, yes. And there being a Backstreet Boys reference in the film.
That's what Dougie was telling me, is that's how they got the licensing
no way.
for this song.
Sneaky,
I assumed it
sneaky.
was because this was like MTV Films.
That's true.
yeah.
One of the things I just find so charming about this movie is the way this movie goes to great lengths to stay family friendly.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that are discussed but are not shown. Napoleon in particular, he loves to use phrases like frickin' or freakin' or flipping all the time in place of the F-bomb. And, when the movie engages with more adult subject matter or themes, we've got Bus Must, that whole plot line. And eventually we meet LaFonda, who has a rather sexual nature to her. I feel like it's always explained away in this very like anodyne way where it's like, it's just Uncle Rico's lack of social skills, or like, we're seeing Kip's dream of meeting a soulmate coming true, right? And I'm just curious, what do we feel is gained or lost by this film being so unwilling to veer into more crass territory?
Well, what this film did gain is the viewership of about 20 Lutheran teenagers in 2006. who otherwise would have had to watch this film elsewhere, or possibly would not have gotten to it until now, 20 years later. But yeah, since I hadn't seen this so long, I expected this film to be more crass. I think mainly because crass humor was very in at this time period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like we've talked when we talked Superbad, I think kind of about this era of 2000s of like the aughts comedies. So I found it pretty refreshing, I think, to revisit this and be reminded that this film actually doesn't really go in that direction.
Yeah. And it just doesn't need to. And I think
it doesn't need to.
I think it is part of the kind of world it creates.
I think it's part of the charm. And I think this movie maintains a sense of innocence because of it.
Yeah,
That
I
is
love that.
kind of difficult when you do a movie set in high school, like about teenagers. You can definitely, and we talked, in our high school movie cycle about films that get into some darker territory. But I think, like you said, this movie can kind of be a warm hug.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is like trying so hard to keep it family friendly.
Sure.
Yeah. I think too that like part of what the touches of the movie help to establish is this feeling that a lot of the characters are kind of repressed.
Yeah.
Especially I thought of like Kip being repressed. I mean, he really seems like a very buttoned up guy, and that, his ventures into the world of online dating are, I mean, they're a way out of being so buttoned up, but still in kind of a buttoned up fashion.
Sure.
Yeah.
In a way he feels like he has control over.
Right. Exactly. And then, now I'm thinking of how later on in the movie you see him like wearing all that bling and stuff like that. It's cringy to watch, but it fits the character.
It really does.
Yeah.
I felt that way too. I was like, I wonder how that would play now with audiences. But Kip is a character who is so in need of figuring out an identity for himself
Yeah.
that it almost feels like okay for him to just see what it's like if he were to do this.
And, as a viewer who did not grow up in this kind of environment, I have to wonder a little bit if, to us, it seems kind of like things are intentionally toned down to keep the movie PG. But for Jared Hess and John Heder and other people who grew up in that part of the country with this ostensibly like, Mormon upbringing hanging over them, is this just what it's like?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. I think that there was an intention for this movie not to get crass.
Yeah.
You made the point earlier about, 20 Lutheran youths watching this, but I know that Jared Hess did some missionary work.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would not shock me at all if the intersection of filmmaker and person with religion in their lives, where that meets is a place where it's very hard to make a movie that is vulgar, you know?
And we don't know much about Napoleon as a character, about his upbringing when it comes to religion. But because this film is so autobiographical, I think we can safely make an assumption that this is a very religious community, potentially a Mormon community. And so I think that it's possible that Napoleon and some of his friends are also pushing up as characters against that upbringing,
Right.
and how they have been kind of raised to avoid, extraneous cursing and things like that.
Yeah, I think, part of the appeal of it, watching it as a kid, is that it kind of gives you an excuse to say like these curses that aren't curses.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you flippin' idiot or something like that.
Yeah,
There's
a lot of that.
It's just because like when you're 10 years old and learning to use words like that, it's kind of like, you like scratch the itch that other people get from saying like fucking idiot, but you're not actually offending.
In trouble.
Yeah, you don't get in trouble. You're not offending anybody. And it's like something that you can say around your parents without fear of consequence.
Maybe you.
My parents.
My parents definitely got mad at me for saying the word crap when I was about 9. So sorry, guys.
Doesn't Uncle Rico call the competitors Tupperware like crapperware? Am I making that up?
That sounds like something he'd say.
Okay.
That maybe completely missed me.
One other unfortunate sign of the times, too, is that, there is a scene where Napoleon uses the R word.
Yeah, that's definitely hit my ear in a way that I was like, this, as you said, it was a sign of the times. It was a very common usage at the time that now, 20 years later, you're like, oh, wow, we really were successful in cutting that out of our larger vocabulary as a society, which is cool.
Yeah. With all of these points about the PG-ness of it all, still, it never feels inauthentic.
Yeah.
It never
Right.
feels like the way it does when you watch a movie on television and it's, it's clear that it's been dubbed or something like that.
Yeah.
Never has that feeling.
Yeah, there was no scene from this movie of Napoleon Dynamite being young and couldn't stop drawing dicks.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always think of like I remember at that age watching a lot of movies, like R-rated movies that were censored to be TV friendly on FX specifically, because that channel shows a lot of movies, and just like watching like Tom Cruise's outburst in Tropic Thunder, but it's censored. It's just like, do me a favor and punch yourself in the face.
Right. Or John Goodman just taking a baseball bat to a Porsche and just being like, this is what you get when you meet a stranger in the Alps.
Yeah. Yeah, which is where the Phoebe Bridgers album title came from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great one. Or, I mean, I have had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
Yeah.
Friday.
That's
So
great.
good.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about that kind of censorship, but at least Samuel L. Jackson did something good with it.
I'm fine with them doing it if they do it in fun, creative ways like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stranger in the Alps, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
This is a movie cycle about politics. We
Yeah.
did choose this film a little bit as a callback to our previous high school cycle. We thought it would be fun to revisit this just a tiny bit and possibly spend a little bit of time looking at it through a lens of the politics, because yes, this movie is kind of a hangout movie, but it does have at the 53-minute mark the introduction of the presidential election there at Preston High School. I would say that it's one of the more important and enduring presidential elections of the 21st century.
Bold statement.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Wheatley versus Sanchez for Preston High School student body government.
Yeah.
Watching this, one of the things that came back to me in a big way was, what were my high school elections like? And I actually was coming up with a lot of blanks. I don't think this is something that I thought a whole lot about
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
high school. And I'm just curious, like, did you guys run for anything in high school?
No.
Neither did I. Yeah.
No, I thought I surely ran for like a club president,
Oh,
or
okay.
not president, but like a club office. But I feel like those were not things you campaigned for, or even
Right.
really had elections. It's just
Yeah.
like, I want to be secretary.
Right. Well, you know what? I was secretary of my 8th grade class.
Okay. Did you have to campaign?
I campaigned. I made posters. I hung them in the halls, and I gave a speech.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
Okay.
won.
Did you do a dance?
I did not.
Did your friend do a dance?
No.
They didn't make you do a skit.
did
That's
not
such
make me
a
do a skit.
weird thing.
I agree.
It's like weird in the high school situation, but like when you consider what that does for the election, I mean, I can think of quite a few real world parallels to that sort of thing.
Yeah, but neither of what we see are skits.
Yes, they're
This is
not
true.
skits.
Yeah.
They call them skits. They're not. They're
Yeah.
both dances.
Performances.
Yeah,
Performances.
there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not have to do anything of that nature besides a speech.
And you did not want to run again once you went to high school.
No, I didn't. You talked about it with clubs. I was really involved with clubs in high school. That was enough, man.
Yeah, clubs
Between
was
that and
enough.
school and sports, it was like, yeah.
Perhaps you, as someone that was secretary of the 8th grade, you can answer my question of, what does student government do?
Yeah, no.
What do they do?
I feel like you act like a liaison between students and the faculty at large, or the administration. Yeah. And so, there were things like, we did stuff for school dances.
Oh yeah, you had got to decorate for
Right.
the dance.
We
The
did
decorating
decorations for the
committee.
dance. We did do fundraisers. That was another
Okay.
thing. There were things that we did for field day. There were like lunchtime announcements that we could do as well.
I
Morning
think
announcements.
That's like the first thing that I think of when I try to remember what my impression of someone who is not in student government, what they possibly did. And I'm like, they did the morning announcements. That's
yeah.
like really all I remember them doing.
Yeah.
Well, there were things like that. I feel like there were like 5 or 6 things throughout the
Yeah.
year that the students had some sort of say in. And then I also think some of it was a little bit of a formality. It was
training.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, training for high school. But as I noted, I did not choose to take that training any further.
Yeah.
Julian, do you have any school government memories?
No, not particularly. And I think that, we've sort of hinted at this already, but I think I had this lingering sense, in various levels of school of like, well, how much is this really gonna like change things?
Yeah.
Like, I think I always felt like student government was just kind of a facade.
You didn't want to decorate for the school dance.
No.
Or
it's
help organize the ice cream social.
Or maybe plan whose cousin was going to be DJ. That's important stuff when you're in 8th grade.
Very important, yeah.
But I think in like elementary and middle school, I don't think there was student government. I don't remember there being anything. And in high school, I just did not have the attention span for it. I had too much going on already. Yeah. And then in college, there was student government too that I think actually had a more active role in the school. There were like, issues of budgeting and things like that came up. I did participate in and eventually helped to run a club in college. So that's where my experience, lies
as a student leader organizer.
Right. But, it's more just kind of like a figurehead among, my niche.
Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to like a figurehead in the school at large.
I have two kind of granular student government memories as someone who is not involved in it. One, there was a kid at my high school named Michael Touloupis, and he was running for some sort of student government position around the time of parent-teacher conferences and had campaign posters up around the school. And my dad was in the hallway for parent-teacher conferences and saw Michael Touloupis's campaign posters, and he said that Michael's campaign slogan should have been, "Vote for Touloupis or you get no supus."
Does your dad like Seinfeld?
This was a Seinfeld reference, yes.
So then they would have had the like soup Nazi.
Yeah.
He could have postered him in or something.
Exactly.
To it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then I remember my freshman year of high school, we had a student body president and a senior class president, and they were twins. Mm-hmm. And they were also salutatorian and valedictorian.
Oh my gosh.
And they were also like co-captains of the swim team or something.
They just owned everything. They ran
exactly.
Things.
I feel like they were just like these twins that seemed like maybe not real people because they they kind of sound like they were built in a lab or something, right?
Who are the characters from Social Network? Winklevoss twins?
Yeah,
the Winklevi.
Very Winklevi. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And do you guys remember that show True Life on MTV?
Oh, yeah.
I've heard of it.
One of them was on an episode of True Life.
No way.
It was True Life, I'm a Sports Fanatic. And they like followed him around while he tried to get tickets to the Duke Carolina game for that year.
Okay.
It's funny because like I knew a pair of identical twins in high school as well who were like kind of similar in that they like were maybe not in all the same positions, but they were known simply for being twins. Yeah. But also that they did have like kind of prominent places in the student body and like certain clubs and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm remembering one of them was also the lead in the school musical. So it's like they're just weren't.
They just covered every base.
I'm really glad I wasn't in the same year as these kids because I feel like they kind of took everything.
Yeah, they just like ran shit. Yeah,
they left nothing for everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Centering, I think, back on this movie, this is not something I actively thought about until watching it for this conversation. But I was really curious to see how these campaigns were run. I want to dig into this because I have thoughts.
Yeah.
I feel like Summer keeps it real PC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's got her pins.
She's got her flyers.
And she's got her like coterie of other popular / more prominent people.
Yeah, her boyfriend, not Nick Carter, and then her friend Trisha.
Right, that she's able to round up. Right, and she kind of plays it by the book, I think. Pedro, okay, I've used the term hot take on social media in ways that have gotten me in hot water, apparently. I think it's kind of hot take-ish, but Pedro, he's kind of a dick. He kind of is.
Yeah.
Like that montage that is meant to be really sweet of like, here we go, we're getting this campaign off the ground. Mm-hmm. Purposefully
he covers all of Summer's flyers with his own flyers.
Such a dick move. Like
rude.
I actually thought that would be the thing I would be like, that's not how we do things.
Yeah,
here.
over the pinata.
Yeah. I mean, before the pinata.
The pinata number 2.
Yeah, exactly. And to that point too, like when you have a pinata like that, like you're saying something without saying something.
Yeah.
And, whether he knows it or not, he's running kind of a dirty game over
A
here.
little bit.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you guys feel about this.
And, even with that, like Napoleon is not exempt from this consideration too, because like there's that one scene where there's like the,
Don.
Don
Right?
is beating up another kid, but then
no, that's
Randy.
Randy. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking if you were going to say something else, but Randy, yes.
so like, and Napoleon comes up to that kid after he's beaten up and says that if you vote for Pedro, he'll offer
His
Pedro
protection.
offers you his protection.
And by
Right.
giving one of the little bracelets too.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that that was giving me like Guardian Angels vibes. It was kind of like, okay, like yeah, we're rooting for these characters, but this is pretty sketchy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love the next scene where Randy
yeah.
then tries to steal that kid's bike,
Yeah.
and Pedro's cousins just like drive up.
Yeah,
With the vote for
with
Pedro.
the vote for Pedro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It calls back a little bit to like kind of mob tactics,
Right.
like
Yeah.
intimidation.
But hey,
Yeah.
it's only intimidation. They don't touch the kid.
That's true.
And also, he's the most violent bully we see at this school.
Absolutely.
It's true.
And you know
Maybe
what?
he had it coming.
He had it coming. He started it, right?
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
coming in just to end it.
They're just
Yeah.
trying to stick up for the little guy, I think.
those two cousins too. I mean, it's hard not to think of the Salamanca twins from Breaking Bad.
I
Absolutely.
actually did look up to see. I feel like the more central cousin, who we see center frame more often,
Yeah.
looks so much like one of the Salamanca.
He- yeah, I
Definitely
thought so
But I
too.
had to
Yeah,
actually look
yeah.
it up and make sure it wasn't the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the two brothers who appear in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are, I think their last name is Moncada.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Danielle and Luis Moncada or
Yeah.
something like that.
terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what I'll say ultimately about Pedro's campaign is that none of this is successful.
No, it's not. Yeah.
Because when we see him and Summer giving their campaign speeches, when he walks out, there's like very tepid applause.
Thank you. Very good point to bring up. It's like perfunctory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like he tries these things out, some of which are a little questionable, but ultimately that is not what wins him the election.
Yeah, it's an act on Napoleon's part that does it.
Right. Yeah.
The optics that come from it. I was thinking, going back to Pedro for a moment, about how like earlier on in the plot line that once he realizes that he's running against Summer and he sees her putting up her flyers and handing out merchandise to other students, that he starts to have that little panic attack.
Right.
That he's like he's sweating and he
That's when he
can't-
shaves his head.
That's when he
got-
shaves his
yeah,
head.
yeah.
He thinks it's just because his hair's too hot, but I think he's just having a panic attack there.
Right.
Because he realizes what he's up against.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a girl that he used to have a crush on.
Also true,
Exactly.
yeah.
Like I'm wondering if maybe some of the hostility might not be a little bit of that coming out. Like,
Yeah.
you turned me down, turned down my invitation to the dance.
Yeah.
I think that's way back there.
Yeah.
I think more of it is just
Ultimately, I think it worked out for him. He and Deb seemed to have a good time at the
Yeah.
dance.
yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
But then
yeah.
also like Pedro sees that student election sign before we even know that Summer's in the race.
I think he's interested from when he sees the sign at the dance. But I think, to your point, Emilio, maybe some of these tactics that he employs, he maybe goes to these lengths because it's Summer.
yeah.
That's
yeah.
also true.
Can we talk about their platforms? I found this
Yeah.
fascinating. Absolutely
Sure.
fascinating. Summer, 2 new pop machines in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
So there's that. I had to look this up because I was unfamiliar with this. The Bond Bell dispenser.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, apparently
Same.
it's like a type of glitter, like glitter that is meant to be applied to your face or to your body or whatever, but that there'd be Bond Bell dispensers in the girls' bathroom. And also new cheerleading uniforms.
Yes.
So I think it has that like I'm appealing first to the donors
Oh,
kind of
yes.
vibe. Like there's a very specific group of people that she's appeasing first.
Yeah, she's going for Hot Girl Summer.
Exactly. And then it seems like she's also going for fewer or 0 ethnically diverse lunch options.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one was a little harsh. She
Yeah. No,
that was
overstepped her
rude.
bounds a little bit.
She
there.
doesn't like spices.
Yeah, definitely
And
not.
that's on her.
She also calls them chimney
Chimichangas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're gonna, badmouth it, get it right, Summer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then her little tagline is, "With me, it'll be summer all year long."
round. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Last little tagline. I like it.
Yeah, totally.
How do we feel at this platform?
I mean, I think she has a few good practical ideas for certain people, but ultimately, there's a specific demographic that she knows how to cater to, and she's not a populist candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ultimately, all of these things that she claims to want to bring are just things to spend money on. And that means that she will need to divert funds from other areas of the school so that they can get new cheerleading uniforms. And who does that affect? The cheerleading squad only.
Yeah.
No one else cares, but they will care that perhaps, certain funding in other areas for their other clubs has been cut to pay for new cheerleading uniforms.
Yeah.
I'm not in favor of this.
I think there are some serious budgetary concerns that are going to come out from this. So, and her skit. So this I forgot about. Obviously there's like larger than life. We got the Backstreet Boys reference.
Yes.
Nice to know that Nick Carter was able to grease the wheels a little bit.
Well, I mean, I think as Dougie said, Haley Duff briefly dates seems like a stretch from my Googling Nick Carter. But I do remember Aaron Carter appearing on an episode of Lizzie McGuire. And I think that Hillary Duff and Aaron Carter did date. Okay. So I do think that there is this connection there.
Okay, good. Whatever that connection was, it gave them larger than life. So there's the dance routine. And this I forgot about. There's the signing routine as well.
Yeah,
it's done with
the
Happy Hands Club. Yes.
Which Summer is not in at the beginning of the movie.
She's not. Yes. But it does seem like definitely appealing first to women, athletes as well, and I would say the hearing impaired voters.
Yeah, I am curious as to exactly how large of a demographic this is at this school.
Well, they do have the Happy Hands Club, so
Maybe
wondering,
it's more sign language enthusiasts.
Okay. Yeah, it could be. Any other points from Summer?
I think, just what her campaign exemplifies is someone who has the desire to make a splash as a popular person, but really only has a few specific areas of investment that I think she doesn't realize are as limited as they are.
Yeah. She has that line in her speech where she's like, never thought I'd be here today.
Yes.
Which
what is that?
It's so weird. And I think it's like a fake humility type of appeal.
Yeah.
I'm just like you. I never thought I would be running for president.
And considering a lot of other real politicians and what they do, that's a pretty political thing to do.
Yeah, she is, I'd say, kind of politically savvy in that way.
Yeah,
I'd say so too.
Even if she's not really going to do much good, she knows how to boost herself up.
Right.
Yeah.
I love all these points. They're fantastic. Okay, shifting to Pedro over here. Yeah. This gets a little bit buried, I might say, just because there's some exposition.
And he's so down on himself by the
Yeah.
time he's giving his speech.
Right,
Yeah, and
right.
honestly, his voice is a little difficult to hear then.
He's
is.
very soft-spoken in this moment.
Yeah,
it's it's difficult without subtitles.
With the help of subtitles, we are able to discern that his platform would involve bringing Holy Santos to the school, specifically to guard the hallways and bring good luck. He notes specifically El Santo Niño de Atocha, which his aunt has apparently seen.
Cool.
So maybe there's some connection there. It feels somewhat in keeping with the Hesses. No separation of church and state here.
Yeah.
So,
that is true.
Yeah.
I will say Pedro did offer you his protection. And that's a big promise from Pedro. He needs some assistance. And
That's
perhaps
true.
turning to the saints is his best bet.
Yeah. He actually didn't think about this until now, but feels very much like a wartime president.
Yeah.
Thinking about potential threats.
Although when I first heard this, I thought he was suggesting we put the saint candles throughout the hallways.
I thought so too.
Yeah. I would understand that.
That
too.
seems more doable.
Yeah.
Yep.
And with Napoleon as a right-hand man, Napoleon has claimed that there's a bunch of gangs at the school that want him to join because he's
That's
good
true.
with a bow staff.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes. This is all coming together. See, I like this.
And he's bluffing at this point, but Napoleon claims to have difficulty storing his nunchucks in his locker.
Nunchakas.
What was that?
He at one point says nunchakas.
Somehow I missed that.
Well, he's spending time with Pedro. Is trying to expand a little bit. But yes, no, all good points. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that he says, I kind of like this. He seems like wants there to be more involvement with the FFA.
Yeah, he wants to expand that.
Yep.
We do see a little bit of the FFA competition earlier on, which is also referenced in Palooka.
Palooka, it is. Yes, it's very true.
With the milk tasting, which is I have to look away from. I'm just disgusted by watching people drink milk.
In this one is bleach.
Yeah. That was something I had actually forgotten from years ago. I mean, it's brief in the movie.
Oh, it's so brief. Yeah. In that scene, he does that. And then it does cut to Pedro actually being more involved. I think
Pedro's involved with the 5-nippled cow.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's like screening cows, I guess, for their dairy viability
prowess.
Or something. So that's great,
That's great.
Seems like he has his eye on the future a little bit.
And it connects to him personally, his own personal interests.
Right, absolutely. I didn't really hear a whole lot more. We did mention this protection bit, which I think is great. That's not stated in the speech, but is, I think, exemplified.
Not directly, but at Napoleon's suggestion, he does tell everyone, vote for Pedro to make all your wildest dreams come true.
That's true. Yeah. That is the one that he leaves the speech off on.
Which that's a tall order, Pedro.
I would say this is the definition of a campaign promise you can't keep.
Yeah.
So that is that going against it.
I think ultimately Napoleon is kind of Pedro's advisor.
Yeah.
And I do not think Napoleon is a particularly good political advisor.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think he is a good jester.
Yeah, that's a good word for it, especially with what he goes on to do for the skit.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he bails him out in the biggest way.
He's a good friend.
He is a very good friend. And this dance routine to Jamiroquai's Can Heat. I mean, what a club banger that song is.
Yeah, great song.
Apparently, I mean, there was like in the filming of the scene too, I mean, they were kind of down to the wire there as well.
They said they were on their last reel of film.
Yeah, they were on their last reel, and luckily John Heater, he was just casually in his own life a good dancer and expressed that he wanted to do it for the movie and recorded it for 3 songs, one of them being the Jamiroquai song that made it. And, it's like he kind of bailed out the movie there at that point, too.
Yeah, that scene is just like the lightning of this movie. This movie, I do not think would have been the hit that it became were it not for the dance scene. Hater on the commentary shouts out a few specific references for dance moves that he pulled from. So he pulled from the Backstreet Boys.
Nice.
He pulled from Michael Jackson. He pulled from Saturday Night Fever. And he pulled from Soul Train.
Perfect.
And if you listen to the commentary that he's on, he will point out the specific moves that he specifically pulled from for each of these.
I think I remember the one with like the hand coming out and then kind of curling back in his body. That's very Saturday. That's very disco.
Yeah. And some of these are original moves. And apparently the actress that plays Deb is a hip hop instructor. And so she also had a hand in choreographing some of this with him.
This was one thing I didn't realize until this conversation. Tina Majorino, she was quite the child star.
Yeah.
Before her time in this movie, before being in Napoleon Dynamite. Have you guys seen the movie When a Man Loves a Woman?
I have not, no.
She is lights out good in that movie. That's the first movie she's in. She plays the older daughter, and Meg Ryan is an alcoholic and has like a very uncomfortable scene, and she's so good in that movie.
Yeah.
She's also in the movie Andre, which I don't have great memory of, but it's her with a giant seal throughout. She's very good in that too. And I've not seen Waterworld, but she's like the 4th billed actress in Waterworld. So
didn't she have like some kind of involvement with Ray Liotta in something too?
I'm trying to remember. Oh, Corinna. Yes, with Whoopi Goldberg. She's the daughter. Yes.
I remember when he passed away that she posted like a very heartfelt tribute on social media to him.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. And then, but like in thinking of the dance as well, I mean, this is like a year or two before Evolution of Dance comes out on YouTube.
And I'm not familiar with Evolution of Dance.
Oh, you don't know that? That was like one of the great early YouTube videos.
I learned something new every day.
Yeah, it was like definitely like an early viral video.
Cool.
A quick moment that I liked in this film is shortly after LaFonda gives Napoleon the tape that her cousin made. And also when he just is practicing with the tape he got from the Goodwill or whatever. You see through like the crack in the door a little bit of like a taste of his dance moves. And I just really like that setup, how it's like just giving you a little taste that you're going to get like the full meal later.
Are you ready to get down? Yes. I love that.
That's, one of a few moments in the movie where you see public accessy local business having its moment.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or the other, of course, being Rex Kwon Do.
I love Rex Kwon Do.
That's like as brief as that segment is in the movie. You can't forget it.
Oh, for sure.
So the election is one subplot in a movie that's constantly chugging along while also not really being about anything. But I gotta say, I think the average person kind of thinks about elections in the same way, that they're just something that happens while your life continues to move.
Right.
And I think a lot of people these days think that maybe it doesn't matter who holds elected office and who is in government because the system is organized in a way that disenfranchises people and makes it difficult for government officials to enact any change that actually affects the average person.
Right, yeah.
So with that in mind, who is actually affected by Pedro's presidential run or Summer's presidential run in any way? We talked a little bit about who Summer is campaigning towards, the hot girls,
right.
the athletes, the cheerleaders, more specifically. Who is Pedro here to help? The FFA?
Yeah, that's true.
Anybody else?
I mean, I would think that that's actually pretty huge. I mean, I have to imagine that move is one that is meant to be very like forward thinking about employment. And I mean, we're going to see it more and more with climate change and everything.
Yeah.
And so I like to think that while Pedro maybe ran his campaign in, morally dubious ways or being unprepared for that skit, I think is a little rough. But I do think his heart is in the right place. I do think that he's going for everybody.
Yeah. In defense of Pedro with the skit, Napoleon says something to the teacher that's like, hey, your skit's up next. Napoleon says, why didn't anybody tell us about that? And I don't know if Napoleon, if he's correct in this, but I think it's possible that just no one actually informed them.
Yeah.
I kind of interpreted that knowledge was made available to Pedro, but
and
that maybe
and
that it wasn't disseminated to his campaign team.
Yeah.
And so, I like Pedro a lot, but I'm putting that one at his feet. But he's looking out for the greater good here.
Yeah, I think that he, in essence, wants to fight for the little guy.
Yeah.
He's here to offer you his protection. He's here to make your wildest dreams come true. And whether or not he will accomplish that goal is dubious at best.
Yes. Yeah.
But I do think his heart's in the right place.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I also felt too, this is clearly an upset victory.
Yeah. We talked about the tepid applause when he takes the stage for his campaign speech.
Yeah.
But the uproarious reaction to Napoleon's dance.
Yeah.
Just like people jumping out of their seats.
Yeah.
Summer and what's his face seem a little perplexed.
Summer and Don.
And Don. But everybody else just loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it kind of it suggests that there's like a rather jaded electorate there. They're kind of looking for anything. But nonetheless, he wins.
Yeah.
And
or at least it's assumed because we see a cake that says Presidente Pedro.
That's right. That's right. And he kind of does that little look up off to the side. Again, maybe a little bit of a religious call.
The saints are looking out for him.
Exactly. Yeah, I find it tempting to compare it to another upset victory in our recent past. Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump in 2016 has a little bit of this nature. She's the more established presence, having run in, the popular circles for some time now. I'm thinking specifically of Summer, but that there's a little bit of a Hillary connection there. And that Pedro's a little bit of the Trump here. He's the outsider who uses aggressive tactics to make a name for himself in an unproven arena. But I was curious for you guys, were there any other political upsets that Summer Wheatley versus Pedro Sanchez can be compared to?
In defense of Pedro, I think that he is just trying some creative tactics that he's maybe just not fully thinking through.
But I would agree, yes.
But with the, defense of Pedro in mind, my thought was not Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump, but rather Hillary Clinton versus Barack Obama in 2008 in the Democratic primary. Because I thought much more based on, as we said, the tepid applause when he first comes out. He is assumed to have no chance of winning prior to Napoleon's dance. And this means that his campaign tactics didn't really shake up anything at all. And ultimately, the comparison here is someone like Hillary, who was very favored to win, but then someone coming in kind of at the end of the wire.
Right. Yeah.
People, didn't have a whole lot of faith in Obama at the very beginning of the primary season.
Right.
He picks up a lot of momentum. And even after John Edwards backs out, it continues to go on for quite a long time. They're very neck and neck in a lot of states.
Right.
So I think that the closer comparison in my mind is an election like that, where somebody just really picks up momentum partway through and carries it through to the finish line.
I really like that. That's a good one. As somebody who grew up in Chicago, Barack Obama was very much on our radar and we were pulling for him. But I totally agree. On a national stage, it was Hillary, pretty much until, I don't know, maybe like the 2/3 mark or something. Yeah.
I mean, this is not really as much of an upset victory, but one other campaign that I thought of, sort of a different frame is the way that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez won her initial election, which was, it was not so much that she was going up against a formidable opponent, but as much as she was shaking up an electorate that had been kind of jaded for a while, that had the same congressperson, and, things were really in a state of stasis in that, Bronx and Queens district that she serves. Yeah. And it seems a lot like the milieu in Preston, Idaho is just, very jaded in a lot of ways. Like things, to loosely quote a line from Waiting for Guffman, nothing ever happens in Preston. Then in comes Pedro and his campaign. And even though most of the time it's not looking like it's going to make any waves, then Napoleon makes this move late on that makes huge waves.
Right.
And suddenly, there's a revitalization that happens there.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
I like that a lot too. I'd like to thank yesterday's America.com for pointing me in this direction. I also thought a great comp to this would be what happened in a similar middle American state, Minnesota, in 1990, which is when a political science college professor named Paul Wellstone put his hat in the ring for state senator, and the odds were super not on his side because his opponent was an incumbent, well-liked guy, Rudy Boschwitz, and this guy actually outspent him 7-1 during his re-election campaign. Wellstone kept it super grassroots and appealed mostly to young voters and farmers.
Yeah.
And it seemed like at the last minute, there was some kind of dig at his religious affiliation by some of Boschwitz's supporters that apparently he co-signed. It's a little unclear if that's the case, but that really came back to haunt him. And this reminds me a little bit of Summer's last little dig on Pedro about the chimichangas. Mm-hmm. Should have thrown that in at the last minute. That might have swayed some people.
Yeah.
Being like, oh, really? Like,
yeah, there may have been a swing vote there.
I know, yeah. And Wellstone ended up winning, and he won by a pretty comfortable margin. He served 2 terms, was very well liked, and the only reason he didn't run again was because he and his family actually tragically died in a plane crash, like shortly before Election Day, when he may have actually won his 3rd term. So let's hope a similar fate does not befall our Pedro.
Oh, Pedro.
Yeah, we want a long life lived by Pedro Sanchez.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And his cousins too.
Yes.
For the protection.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Gosh, well, I don't know. I can't think of any other political angle to take on this.
No,
We're good?
I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Like we said, the politics take up about 35 minutes in this movie.
And about 35 minutes of our podcast.
Yeah, it's a consequential movement in the movie, though. I mean,
it really is.
Like, I mean, even though it's not there for most of the first hour, it's like the movie's outcome would not be what it is without it.
And as you said, like the number one piece of merchandise from this movie is the Vote for Pedro shirt.
100%.
That is the first image that people get in their minds when they think about this movie is Vote for Pedro.
Yeah.
The DVD that I bought, the cover is Vote for Pedro.
Yeah.
Yeah, enough said.
Yeah, and it's interesting too that in the movie you see the campaign, but you don't see the presidency.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah, I guess we had written down a question of like, does he follow through on his promises? And we don't know.
No, we don't.
Because we don't see any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We barely even see Pedro after the election.
That's something I think about with politics in general, which is that sometimes like you have to put so much effort into the campaign that, well, then you've got to think about the term itself. And then, depending on what the office is, sometimes you're in office and doing your work almost as soon as you are running the next campaign.
Yeah.
Should we spend some time on this movie is so full of wonderful little details.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it.
We talked a little bit about how autobiographical this movie is. If you listen to the director commentary, he's kind of constantly like, yeah, that happened in my life. That happened in my life. You talked about the farmer shooting the cow in front of a bus full of school children. I want to say that again. I want to underline that is an actual thing that happened in Jared Hess's childhood.
Right.
With all of these traumatized children. Another thing that a lot of these are, I'm like, how could this happen to a person? And one of the things is that Aaron Huell's brother did buy a time machine from the internet.
Oh, no.
That is actually based on something that Aaron Huell's brother did. And the design is fairly similar.
The crystals?
The crystals, that was part of it. The T, whatever it's called.
Yeah, the T that goes between his legs.
That also actually part of it. And Dougie is listening to the actor commentary at this moment and is texting me things.
We're getting dispatches from Dougie.
And he sent me this eBay link for space-time modulator, which is apparently the one that Aaron Huell's brother, not this exact one, I don't think, but the model that Aaron Huell's brother bought off of the internet. This is what it looked like.
Okay.
And we can post this on our Instagram.
We will have to do that, yes.
So that people can check it out. You can currently buy it for $399.99 on eBay with $79.99 shipping. Another thing, as of the recording of the actor commentary, another thing that Aaron Huell's brother bought on the internet was something called the Radionics Wishing Machine.
Wow, okay.
Which looks very similar to our time machine.
Oh, yes.
Over
Gosh.
here.
Okay, so maybe a little bit of a meld between these two things influenced the design of the time machine you see in Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah,
wow.
Exactly. Even though the wishing machine does not come up in Napoleon Dynamite, I still want to read you a little bit of the item description from the wishing machine on eBay.
Okay.
Imagine if you had 3 wishes. Well, with this device, you have as many as you want. The equivalent of an electronic genie. It amplifies users' brainwaves to make your wishes literally come true.
My God.
So all I'm saying is that if Pedro could get his hands on a wishing machine, then he could follow through with his campaign promise to make everyone's wildest dreams come true.
Fantastic. Oh my God. And how much is that going for?
This is currently on eBay for $20 less than the time machine. So $379.99 with $69.99 shipping.
So
between $80 to $100 more than a subscription to Rex Kwando's 8-week program.
Exactly.
There we go. And it's incredible. Thank you so much for that, Madeline.
You're welcome.
I'm like crying. It's so good.
Well, speaking of like the paratextual side of things here, is that, I mean, there's one name that comes up in this movie that I think we've all probably heard somewhere else before, which is that a minor character in the movie became the namesake for one of Mark Maron's former cats. LaFonda.
Of course.
You are right about that.
We haven't really talked about LaFonda.
We haven't. She's pretty consequential, though.
Yeah.
I mean, she gives Napoleon the tape.
She gives Napoleon the tape.
That's huge.
I'm watching this movie, and Dougie's like, wait, are her cousins Jamiroquai?
Yes.
But I was also, I rewatched a little bit so I could listen to the commentary. And after she gives him the tape and you see him practicing, there's a different song playing. So I think this is just like, this grabs him.
Okay.
I think this starts his love of this genre.
Gotcha. So
I don't think that the tape she gives him is the Jamiroquai tape that he dances
that he gives to like the AV guy.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I don't know that for sure.
You've laid out a perfectly good argument for how it isn't. So that's good. I like that.
Yeah. And then, like LaFonda is the reason for her and Kip's happy ending.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So you guys did watch the after credits scene.
Yeah.
pretty
need to get to
substantial
this.
after credits scene.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about this now, I
Yeah.
guess.
yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't see this until this viewing. Never saw this until this moment. I'm so glad I didn't.
Do you think that they played this on TV when you watched it?
I remember it. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe so. But yeah, it probably would have just like shown the credits, which are pretty brief too. And then gone straight to that. It's not like the thing you usually see on TV where the credits roll and it just like goes into
It
small
minimizes
screen.
and starts the next cartoon or whatever.
Exactly.
But Emilio, you think you guys just turned this movie off like when the credits were done?
I first saw Napoleon Dynamite on a VHS tape. But
so you didn't like take it out of the VCR and think like,
see
oh,
like,
there's
there's still a little
tape
bit left. Yeah, no, I didn't then. And with the DVD, which I ended up seeing it more on eventually, I definitely didn't. But I'm really glad I didn't see it because honestly, it didn't really do anything for me. I kind of disliked it actually.
I do like Napoleon riding in on the horse.
Yeah.
I do like that shot. You don't like it?
Not that much.
I mean,
That's fine.
it kind of just builds on points that have already been made in the movie.
I think so too.
But it's still entertaining. I like
what I
it.
wrote in my notes is it feels like anticipatory fan service for
Yeah.
enthusiasts of the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of feels like something that they recorded after the movie was released, which is not the case. But I think I read that this was only introduced into the theatrical run partway through.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
And this movie notably did not have a sequel, but I think in many ways it's better for that.
Oh,
Right,
yes,
yeah.
definitely.
But yeah, and then talking a little bit more about other details, small and large, in the movie. So, a couple small like gestural things. I mean, one of the things I like about John Heater's performance as Napoleon is that like it seems like his eyes are always half open.
Yes.
And if you just look at an image of him in his regular, just his regular state of being, it's not what he looks like.
Sure.
So that's, a good acting move on his part. Nice little physical touch. And that was one of the things that actually kind of led me to think there was like some autistic coding to Napoleon Dynamite because of like difficulty with eye contact.
I noticed that it's a little inconsistent throughout the movie.
That's true.
There is a thing when he gets really focused on something, his eyes do get wide open. Like
Yeah.
in his interactions with Uncle Rico, he's way more engaged. But if he's trying to like disappear,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's when the eyes start to close.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Speaking of Uncle Rico, I mean, and gestural things too, I have to say, it always amuses me to see the way that he modifies his face when he's sitting in Deb's photo studio.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
And
so
I'm
great.
like,
Yeah.
she is a great photographer.
Fantastic.
She is, but just
She's
like
a pro.
the way that he just, sort of settles into that. I'm making the face right now.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It made me think a little bit of how, there's senior portraits
Yeah.
that oftentimes get done in high school. And we know how much Uncle Rico is like trapped in
yeah.
1982. So maybe
Yeah.
there was a little bit of a callback to a simpler time when, he felt really good about himself. It's like, of course, yeah, I'll strike this pose. Yeah.
And speaking of being stuck in the 1980s, I mean, I have to shout out this movie's soundtrack too.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a long list of songs, but when the needle drops do happen, they're very, very memorable. And this movie, it's the place where I first heard songs like Forever Young, Time After Time, and then The Promise at the very end.
Yeah.
All great songs.
On the
Yeah.
I did not fact check this, and they didn't seem totally sure of it, but on the commentary, Hess seemed to think that this was the first time the White Stripes licensed out their music to
Yeah.
film.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, what little I heard of the commentary on my DVD, he said that there too.
Yeah.
I think just like Jack White liked what he saw of the movie, and that was the reason
I
for
like
it.
how he worded it. He was like, we reached out to the lead guy, Jack, and we're like, yes, Jack White. Yes, we all know who Jack White is.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But it made me think a little bit in terms of like the throwback element of it. It made me think a little bit of another movie that came out close in time to Napoleon Dynamite, but it's very different in vibe, which was Sky High,
Oh, yeah.
which is a movie like, very well situated in my
I'm not
childhood.
familiar with this. Go
Yeah,
for it.
I think
I'm
it,
like not at all surprised that you haven't heard of this movie.
Okay.
it was made for like people of my age at the right time. I think it probably missed both of you.
No, it did not miss me.
Oh, okay.
But I'll say I know you're a fan of the Buddies franchise, right? I feel
We're going to
like
get to that. Yeah.
I feel like Sky High is not too far from the Buddies first. It's like it's I think made for slightly older kids. It's
Yeah.
made for more of like preteens,
Yeah.
but it's Buddies coded for sure.
But Sky High is another movie that has a lot of like very retro, specifically 80s things about it. The soundtrack is full of covers '80s songs like "I Melt with You" or "Everybody Wants to Rule the World."
It's like
Fun.
Reliant K, right? I think does this cover of Melt with You.
Even though Napoleon Dynamite and Sky High have very different vibes as movies, that's a common trait of them. It speaks to, I think, a larger cultural fascination of the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
80s revival stuff.
That's a movie where you get a very young cousin Greg from Succession.
Yes.
He is in this movie.
Yeah, that's the first place where I saw Nicholas Braun too.
Okay.
And the last place I saw him was the Williamsburg Bridge.
Yeah.
He's pretty easy to get a
is.
spot. He's very tall.
Yeah, he is so easy to spot.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
gigantic.
I want to go back really quick to Uncle Rico.
Yeah. I know you said you like Uncle Rico.
I'm going to qualify this slightly and say I don't necessarily like Uncle Rico. I don't like everything he does, but I love what his presence is in this movie. Because this movie is a lot, at its core, I think, a lot about loneliness and the compounding nature of loneliness. A lot of the characters that we see are very young. Uncle Rico is the one where it's the loneliness, I think, has been compounded so much that it's actually turned into regret. And he is the vessel for regret in this movie. And
He's
I find
the cautionary tale.
he is. His presence in the movie is absolutely essential for making this movie work. Not only as being a bit of an antagonist for Napoleon, but also I think for having there be, like you said, a cautionary tale, having there be this thing where it's important for these characters to learn how to find one another and to make connection. Because if you don't, you do get stuck.
Yeah, and to continue to move forward in your life.
Exactly. And that's something that Uncle Rico typifies in ways that I sometimes find are kind of funny, in ways that sometimes make him seem like quite a jerk. But one scene I want to just point out is that scene on the steps. I know, he throws the stick, but it's like, honestly, it's kind of the acting moment of the movie. Is when he goes back to the steps, he's just thrown it. He's kind of feeling himself. He's like, yeah, man, like that was just a reminder of my, like what I used to.
Yeah. My
have.
glory days.
My glory days. Like, it's like, how much you bet I could throw this, I could throw this pigskin over those mountains over there. And it's like, he starts being very idealistic about himself, and it's like all in his face. And then he kind of just sinks back down. And then he kind of comes back up again, thinking about what his life could be. And then kind of settles in this place where he's like, this is so far from my life now. And it's so well acted. Like I rewound it a couple times because I was like, is it really that good? It's really that good. That moment is fantastic. John Griez, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Totally crushed it in that scene.
He's so good at
He's so good. I mean, he's so good throughout. But that scene in particular.
Yeah, he's so compelling to watch. And ultimately, we don't know a whole lot about Uncle Rico, but we do see the fact that he is just living in this van.
Yeah.
But he still kind of steps up when Grandma gets injured. And I know that Napoleon and Kip are like, we can take care of ourselves. Kip is like 30. So
apparently, yes.
He could absolutely take care of himself and make sure Napoleon, doesn't starve to death. But seemingly they don't really have any sorts of income.
Yes,
and I don't know that Grandma's in a place to wire them money. So Rico does come in and is like, I'm here to care for my nephews. He is not the most caring, like forthcoming person with his emotions.
Right. Yeah, he thinks he's doing the tough love thing sometimes.
I think that ultimately he's kind of trying his best as a person that's like really hurting.
Yes, I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's also recently gone through a breakup.
Right. And you get like a hint of what's to come for him at the very end of the movie. That There's just this, woman that he meets at a crossroads and they, lock eyes.
I want to ask
Aaron
you guys.
Huell's real life wife.
Exactly.
Oh,
yes. Aaron Huell. Yep. Do we think that that's Tammy, the one he broke up with?
I think so.
I think so too.
That's how I read it. I don't think it's just a strange woman who seems very drawn to him riding her bicycle down the street.
Yeah. It seems like when he gives her the little wave, it's like a little tail between my legs.
Well, it seemed like the reason that he said they broke up is because she said he's living in 1982.
Right.
Maybe his time with Napoleon and Kip has helped him grow a little bit. Maybe not. We see he's still throwing a football at a camera.
I know.
But, I like to think that maybe his perspective has been broadened.
Or maybe that reintroduction of Tammy will be the thing to finally keep him from throwing the footballs at the camera.
I have to shout out while we're on Uncle Rico, his slew of hustles that he goes through in the
I
movie.
love them,
The 24-piece sets.
The 32-piece sets.
Yeah.
I love that scene where he's selling the 24-piece set and he's like, you get this special gift. And the wife like looks at her husband, she's like, I want that.
Yeah.
They said on the commentary that they did not intend for that ship to be as big as it was, but they just kind of had to roll with it. And I think it works so much better with the ship being gigantic.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Uncle Rico was one of a few things, probably the most prominent, that actually made me think of another comparison this time, which was to a movie you might not be the first thing you think of in league with Napoleon Dynamite, but I thought a bit of Licorice Pizza.
Okay.
Because, I mean, the first, the most obvious detail is this slew of hustles that Uncle Rico goes through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of like selling these different things.
Right.
But also the sense, like in both movies, that, and this applies for like the election aspect of Napoleon Dynamite too, that you don't get like some big inner monologue, that these are like the dreams of the characters, things that they've been like dying to fulfill forever. They're just kind of trying things out and seeing what works.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit of Gary Valentine in Uncle Rico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in the friend group of Napoleon and Deb and Pedro, you see a little bit of like the Gary and Alana and their whole band of misfits, what they're all doing there.
Yeah.
Sure.
A few other things I learned. John Hader did all of the drawings, all of Napoleon's drawings himself.
Right. I think in college he studied art in some way. I don't think he took 3 hours on the shading on the upper lip.
Yeah, I think he did give it a little extra care.
Right.
And also the Tina, the llama, actually is Jared Hess's mom's llama.
Oh.
Yeah.
Apparently they had several llamas when he was growing up.
Whose name is Dolly Llama.
Ah.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good.
You mentioned the drawings too, and my favorite drawing from the movie was always the liger.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bred for its skills in magic.
Yeah.
I love that
Which
line.
is on the cover of the DVD.
There we go.
Yeah.
I also love that the principal, is it Principal Sfadine? He's played by Thomas Leffler, who was Jared Hess's film school professor.
Yeah, I think Hess has to bring in so many people that he just knew to be in this movie. I think there are a few like of the teachers at the school who also are just like teachers that he had.
Right. I had one quick question for you guys. So this threw me this last time I saw it. There's an opening credit sequence. It's rather fun. It's kind of neat. It's like the names drawn in the condiments and they correspond with things that the characters end up eating later. So there's that. And then there's this opening scene where he goes and has that like current events thing. He goes up and talks about like Loch Ness explosive charge thing. When he goes up to the front of the class, he closes the trapper keeper and there's in enormous letters his written name.
Yeah.
Just the way you see it in all of the promotional materials for the film.
Yeah.
Do you think that he really did that on his desk, or is that some sort of like cheeky in-joke thing to like, we're going to throw the name of the movie like at you one more time?
The first time I watched it in the last week, I read it as the latter. Like, oh, we're still in the credits. The second time I was like, yeah, maybe he scribbled his name on this desk. But I just want to say, another Dougie tidbit is that the guy who actually wrote that, it was not Hader. It was Pablo Ferro, who did the opening credits of Doctor Strangelove.
What?
And I do not know how they got him to do this,
That
how
is
he
a
was
get.
connected.
Wow.
But apparently this is mentioned on the actor commentary. So thank you to Dougie.
Wow. Dougie coming through. Love it.
Well, that's like, how in Heathers, like they wanted Kubrick to be involved, but it was never going to happen. But then for this debut feature, they did get a little slice of Kubrick there.
And you were also talking about the current events and him giving his little presentation about Nessie or whatever.
Yeah.
That made me think of Clueless.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Very true.
They start on very similar beats. But
Yeah.
Cher, I think, really gets the class on her side pretty quickly in a way that I don't think Napoleon really has the capacity to do.
Not really.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
I think it's time for unlikely universe sharing.
I think so too.
I can go.
Go for it. Yeah, please.
So we've talked about Summer. We don't know a whole lot about Summer. We see her in school. We do see her house when Pedro leaves her the cake, or at least we see her come out of this house, so we can assume she lives there. We see her working at a store in town. But what I'm proposing is that Summer lives a very different life than what we see in this film.
Okay.
And Summer's real name is Ava Marchetta. And she actually comes from an incredibly wealthy family who owns a cosmetics empire. But in an effort to make sure that Ava/Summer develops some life skills outside of being a socialite, her father sent her away to live in Preston, Idaho for 1 year so that she could develop possibly some farming skills, some
political skills, maybe
political skills. And she is determined to prove to him that she has matured during this time and deserves to return to her swanky Hollywood mansion and glamorous lifestyle, hence her run for class president. So,
got it.
Although she loses the election, the initiative is enough to allow her father to let her return home. So Summer, she's out of Preston within the next couple of months. In the coming years, her father passes away, and their family friend Tommy begins running their cosmetics company. However, many years later, the cosmetics company is faced with a scandal when their night cream is accused of causing disfigurement.
Oh my God.
And shortly thereafter, Ava and her sister Tansy burn down their mansion. So
Brutal.
now, without money or status, Ava/Summer and her sister Tansy must work to clear their company name and prove that they are more than just material girls.
Oh.
Material girls.
There
and
we go.
This movie is friend of mine for me because we recently talked about music and lyrics.
Yes, yeah.
And that's a DVD that I bought for $1.99 at Book Off.
I love Book Off.
It's a DVD that included previews. And I watched the preview to
Nice.
Material Girls, and Dougie was like, "What is this movie?" And I was like, "I absolutely saw this movie in the theaters because it was a movie that was marketed towards me specifically at age
Right.
14 or whatever."
Nice.
Starring Haley Duff, who plays Summer, and her sister Hilary Duff,
Hilary
who
Duff.
I was obsessed with as a 12-year-old.
Got it. Wow, that's incredible. Good stuff.
Yeah. I can go next.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so we don't learn that much about Grandma Dynamite.
Also, I like Grandma Dynamite.
Yeah.
It just sounds great. Sounds really
It
good.
does. You know, we see a little bit of her in Napoleon Dynamite with her, spill on the dunes that she thankfully recovers from. But so let's say that after the events of the film, we already know that Kip ends up happily married to LaFonda. And then, Napoleon, he's in high school. But eventually he's going to graduate, presumably go off to college and find some kind of career for himself. Then the grandma becomes an empty nester in that way. And we never really learn much about, we don't learn anything about the parents of this family.
No, we don't.
We don't learn about the middle generation here. It's unclear what's happened to the mother, but the father has had a very fraught relationship with his family for a long time. And let's say that, there was a marriage that ended in an acrimonious divorce, and then he ended up moving across the country to a different rural area and getting into, some trouble in his chosen profession there. And that by the time Grandma Dynamite ends up with this empty nest, that she figures, maybe it's good to check in on this son of hers and make sure whatever path he's going down, that she can do what she can to help keep him focused. Another thing, too, that Dynamite, this name has a lot of flair to it. But let's say it's not the given family name.
It sounds like a made-up name.
It really does.
It's, it's an assumed name that everyone in the family likes, but their given name is Dixon. And so this real Grandma Dixon ends up, after the events of the film, moving across the country to a little town called Ebbing, Missouri.
Ah.
Yeah, with a
Wouldn't they got that without that?
with a group of 3 billboards outside of it.
Of course.
Yeah.
I believe I've said before that 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri was filmed in my college town,
Yeah.
which is not in Missouri.
Yeah, it's in North Carolina.
I like that. That's
Thanks.
good.
Yeah. That's, to shout out Sandy Martin, the great character actress who plays the grandma in Napoleon Dynamite, also seen in places like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I believe she plays, I think it's Mac's mom in that show.
Cool.
If you know to look for her, she's in some good stuff.
She is great in this.
All right, we very briefly mentioned this guy, but I'm gonna dig in a little bit. In what seems like an attempt to augment his cage fighting training regimen, Kip decides to check out the dojo of Rex, a karate instructor and practitioner of a system of self-defense developed over 2 seasons of fighting in the octagon, Rex Kwon Do. This dojo is adorned with American flags everywhere. Rex is even wearing a red and white star bandana and a pair of American flag pants. Seriously, who wants to get a roundhouse kick to the face while he's wearing those bad boys? The overuse of this patriotic iconography does not come from an earnest love for country. Rather, it is all a ruse to throw people off of his scent. You see, Rex is not an American expert in hand-to-hand combat, but an undercover Russian spy stationed in Idaho to gather information about the viability of American agriculture, maybe to predict patterns of the U.S.'s reliance on international crops. But his cover is blown when Rex gets into an altercation with a door-to-door salesman named Rico. You see, when he comes home and he sees Rico putting cooking pots over Starla's bosom, he incorrectly believes that Rico has discovered recording equipment in her chest region and is trying to disrupt the signal. So this physical harm he causes Rico brings unwanted attention and investigation from an insurance company. It forces Russia to pull Rex and Starla from their station in Idaho. She was also a spy, by the way. They were set up to be like a married couple, Mr. and Mrs. Smith style. Okay. So back in Russia, this spy, whose real name is Yuri, decides he needs a fresh start, and he pivots from intelligence work to Russia's space program. And while he's very intelligent and hardworking, Yuri's short temper makes him less than desirable to be working with other cosmonauts. So the Russian space program assigns him to operate and maintain one of their space stations with a dog named Sputnik. It is a match made in heaven, or amongst the stars at least. No more flying solo. Sputnik's presence softens a temperamental Yuri and turns him into a productive, if not quirky, spaceman from Mother Russia, now embracing his role as a botanist, hobbyist traditional Russian dancer, and a lover of dogs. So just imagine how his cup overfloweth when he is visited by 5 golden retriever puppies who have stowed away on a test flight by a space shuttle designed and operated by Vision Enterprises. This shuttle is in need of refueling, and the pups are just passing through, but Yuri believes he has been gifted this surplus of canine energy and that they are here to stay. Because as Yuri has espoused often in his teachings as Rex, the buddy system, or the space buddies system, is key.
I have to go on record and say that when I referenced the Buddies verse earlier in this episode, I did not know that that was going to be your unlikely shared universe.
Yes, that is.
So that is a fun coincidence.
Yes.
And is it possible that one of these dogs, once they go back, is turned into a human? Then something you've done Space Buddies before.
This is the second time that I've made Space Buddies a part of our unlikely shared universe.
Well, I've got Buddies on the brain because a band that I like called Charlie Bliss recently released a new album, and their guitarist is the original voice of Mudbud. In only Air Buddies. I believe he's recast after Air Buddies because he leaves acting.
He's still once a buddy, always a buddy.
Once a buddy, always a buddy.
That's
shout out Spencer Fox.
Oh, great.
Eventually, you're just going to find alternate, unlikely shared universe connections for all the cast of Space Buddies.
I mean, there are a couple others that we might be able to make it work for. So, listener, beware. I'm ready to go there. Yeah,
it's really funny that you brought that up in context of the title of the movie we are discussing next.
This is very true. Yes. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Well, the next movie that we are going to discuss would sound like it is about canines.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's Wag the Dog.
Yes.
So we're going to keep this politics train a-running.
Perhaps more directly from now on.
That's true. It is a film that was released in 1997. It was directed by Barry Levinson. It was co-written by David Mamet. This movie, I'm really excited to get into this.
Me too.
Yeah.
None of us have seen it as of this moment.
No, but true. I have bought a copy at Book Off.
Oh, okay.
So.
Second reference to Book Off.
Got to promote that place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Book Off, please sponsor us.
That would be great. I know. We'd love that. Any last things we want to say about Napoleon Dynamite?
It holds up really well. I'm very glad to have revisited it after more than a decade since I last saw it. I really think in some ways, it's kind of a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most iconic films of the 2000s. And, even though it's the kind of thing that never would have gotten any awards attention, I think it, lives on entirely on its own merits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just echoing all of that. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed rewatching this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I don't know when I'm going to see it next, but I know that
Another
when I see it
20 years.
again, I know when I see it again, I think I'm going to really enjoy it. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. Yeah.
Right. Well, in addition to our podcast, you can also follow us on TikTok and Instagram if you want to see the eBay link to the wishing machine or the time machine.
Yes.
We'll post that on the
Love it.
gram at Sleepless Cinematic Pod. You can contact us via email. For real, we would love to hear from you. Write to us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com. If you're on Letterboxd, you can follow me at Patroness of Cats.
And you can follow me, Julian, at my name, Julian_Barthold. If you're listening to us for the first time, thank you for finding us. If this is the second or third or 20th time you've listened to us, thank you for sticking with us. We've really grown to love doing this, and it means the world to have our budding listenership grow.
And if you haven't already, we'd ask you, return listener, to please write a positive review and rate us on your podcast platform of choice. You can also keep it grassroots, and you can tell a friend to tell a friend about the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast. That helps too. Wonderful, guys. This was so much fun.
This was
Agreed.
a blast.
Awesome. And onward and upward. Take care, guys.
Good night.
Vote for Pedro.